Bismillah, alhamdulillah, salatu wassalamu ala rasulillah, ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man wala, thumma amma ba'd. To proceed, today inshallah we will have the chapter on Wajd, station of Wajd, ecstasy, as most people translate it. And in fiqh we will have Bab Ihya al-Mawat, which is the chapter on reviving barren land. And we will have Bab al-Ja'ala, which is the chapter on per job wages. Per job wages. It's a type of ijara, type of hiring, but a little bit different, as we will come to know, inshallah. First, the chapter of Wajd or ecstasy in Manaazil As-Saa'ireen. Shaykh rahimahullah ta'ala, Imam al-Harawi rahimahullah ta'ala, who died in the year 481 after Hijrah, says in this chapter, which is number 66, station number 66, he says, قال الله عز وجل وربطنا على قلوبهم إذ قاموا. Allah the Almighty said, and we have made firm their hearts when they stood up. This is part of Surah Al-Kahf. فقالوا ربنا رب السماوات والأرض لن ندعو من دونه إلها لقد قلنا إذا شططا. We have made firm their hearts when they rose, when they stood up, and they said, ربنا رب السماوات والأرض, our Lord is the Lord of the heavens and the earth. لن ندعو من دونه إلها, we will not invoke any God beside Him, other than Him. لقد قلنا إذا شططا, we would have certainly transgressed, a great transgression, if we do that, if we invoke any God beside Him. So those are the youth of Surah Al-Kahf that stood up, they rose. It meant they rose from slumber, heedlessness, the condition of their tribe, their people. And it could also mean that they actually stood up physically. فَقَالُوا رَبُّنَا رَبُّ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ, they said, our Lord is the Lord of the heavens and the earth. We will not invoke any Lord beside Him. We would have certainly transgressed, a great transgression, if we did, like the rest of our people. Why did the Shaykh start this chapter on ecstasy by this particular verse? Well, he started it by this particular verse because he wants to say that these people experienced intense spiritual sensation, they received intense spiritual imports that made them unable to stay still anymore, unable to bear the status quo anymore, to live among their people who reject God or associate partners with God anymore. So they were moved by these intense imports, spiritual imports. And that is eventually what Wajd is, which comes from Wajada. Wajada means found or experienced. When you say Muhammad wajada hatifahu, it means Muhammad found his phone. Muhammad wajada fi nafsihi dhiqan, or Muhammad wajada some feeling. It means that Muhammad experienced some stress or grief, uptightness. So it could mean found, it could mean experienced, it means both in this case, to find and to experience, because it is an experience that you find. Wajd, then, these are sort of spiritual sensations that you receive without invocation or expectation, because that's why they're called wajd, procurement, finding. Literally, wajd means finding. It's a verbal noun from wajada, found, means finding. So to find these spiritual sensations is to basically experience intense spiritual sensations. So this procurement or finding, why do people translate it as ecstasy? Because ecstasy is the result of the intense sensations. They want to say that ecstasy is the result of spiritual sensations. But it is not always in the form of joy. It depends on what the devotee experiences. If the devotee experiences the attributes of Allah's majesty, might, rigor, then the intense sensations will be intense sensations of reverence, fear, awe, and anxiety. And if the devotee experienced intense sensations of the attributes of Allah's beauty, compassion, mercy, then the sensations will be sensations of relief, joy, happiness. And these intense sensations could manifest on the body in the sense that they could have physical manifestations. So the body may rock. There may be some rhythmic movements. Without exaggeration, without pretension, without inviting the movements. The movements should be a result of the state of joy or fear, awe, reverence. They should be a result. You should not invite the movements. And also, wajd could result in a perfect calm. It doesn't have to result in rhythmic movements. It could result in a completely perfect calm, tranquility and calmness. So Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah, when he was talking about dhikr, he said that there are 3 different types of people. When it comes to dhikr, he said that there are 3 different types of people. The people who will develop the qash'arira, that's the goosebumps, the shivering of the skin. These are manifestations that the righteous experience when they make dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. الله نزل أحسن الحديث كتابا متشابها مثانية تقشعر منه جلود الذين يخشون ربهم ثم تلين جلودهم وقلوبهم إلى ذكر الله. Allah had revealed the best of speech. Allah had sent down the best of speech. أحسن الحديث تقشعر منه جلود الذين يخشون ربهم. The skins of those who fear their Lord shiver therefrom, from that speech. When they hear the speech, their skins shiver. They have the goosebumps and the shivering of the skin. And also there could be some rhythmic movement with this. ثم تلين جلودهم وقلوبهم إلى ذكر الله. But then Allah said, thereafter their skins and their hearts relax at the remembrance of Allah. So there is this shivering of the skin, but thereafter there is the perfect calm, tranquility, and relaxation at the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So he said that the people who are completely still, they don't move, they are not moved by, they're not touched by the dhikr. They may be suffering from some hardness in their hearts. And at the same time, he said that the things that we hear from the things that we hear about the tabi'een, and how they had these vivacious experiences of loud sighs, and they drop, in coma, or they pass out or pass away. He said that these are not the best conditions. He contended that the Sahaba's relaxation and the Sahaba's serenity and tranquility was superior. and indicated the establishment of the Sahaba in their stations, in their spiritual stations, and their spiritual states. Something that we have to stop at here and pause a little bit. So when we say that the tabi'een, that's what may have been heard more commonly among the tabi'een, the size, the passing out, and so on, is not the most perfect station. Does he mean to say that they are inferior? Or when I repeat this, am I comparing myself to those tabi'een? Absolutely not. Those tabi'een, including the people who we're describing now as inferior to the Sahaba, they could be many light years ahead of us. But we're still saying that when you try to emulate basically the master, the original version. When you look for, when you look for seashells on the shore, and you find one, they use this to talk about the weakness of qiyas, analogy. They use this parable to talk about to address the weakness of analogy as a method of legislation. But anyway. The secondary analogy. So when you find one, and then you look for another one like it, and then you leave the first one, you found one that looks like it, and then you look for one that looks like the second one, and you look for a fourth one that looks like the third one, and you look for a fifth one that looks like the fourth one. Maybe the 11th would be much different from the first. But if you hold on to the first one and you keep on looking for copies of the first one, then likely the second and the third and the fourth and so on may be very comparable to each other. They're close to the first one. So whenever you look for guidance, it does not mean that we abandon our heritage or neglect it, but whenever you look for the ultimate guidance, ultimate parameter, measuring stick, reference, then you look, you look to the Prophet ﷺ. And next to the Prophet ﷺ would be the Sahaba radwanullahi alayhim. And then next to them would be the tabi'een, but in this order. So when al-A'mash, for instance, al-A'mash used to have sort of a sense of humor. But sometimes his sense of humor was a little sour. So he had a dog. He had like a lot of students that were always annoying him and coming to his home and knocking on his door. So he would release his dog, to bark at them and just like scare them away. And then when his dog died, he said, "Mata alladhi kana ya'muru bil ma'ruf wa yanha 'anil munkar." The one who used to command good and forbid bad had just died. And then sometimes when he comes out to his students, he would say, "Nothing brought me out to you except that I hate the people inside more than I hate you." So when, al-A'mash is a great figure in our history, Well, we love him, we respect him a great deal. But does it mean that, he is the ultimate measuring stick? No. And does it mean that you treat people like this, or you make, even if you want to joke with your students, that would not be something that you expect the Prophet to have said, right? Would you expect the Prophet to have said that to his Sahaba? I just hate the people inside more than I hate you. And you wouldn't expect Abu Bakr to say it. You wouldn't expect Umar to say it. So that's what we're saying. So if we have the ultimate example in the Prophet ﷺ, then we should look no farther than the Prophet ﷺ. Okay, So going back to the issue of the physical manifestations of Wajd, then some people may have these rhythmic movements, shivering of the skin, goosebumps, but then Allah said, ثُمَّ تَلِينُ جُلُودُهُمْ وَقُلُوبُهُمْ إِلَى ذِكْرِ اللَّهِ. And then their hearts and their skins and their hearts will relax at the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The question is, Wajd is not, like I said, it's an intense sensation without invocation or expectation. You don't invite it, you don't expect it, it happens to you. You are in your bedroom making dhikr, and then you feel some sensation. And then, you feel the rhythmic movement, you could hear an ayah that gives you goosebumps, things of that nature. An ayah of the Quran, dhikr, something in your prayer, even sometimes a story about the Prophet ﷺ, something that gives you that intense sensation. But then do you invoke it? Is it okay to invoke it? Meaning invite it. That is called tawajud. It's not wajd, that is tawajud. And the masters of the path disagree over tawajud. Should you invite tawajud? Certainly, if this is pretentious, no one would disagree. That certainly would be condemnable if it is pretentious. If you're inviting it in the presence of people to show your sort of, your connection or your spirituality, or that is certainly pretentious, and that's certainly hypocritical, and but we're not talking about the pretentious form of it. But let's say you are alone in your bedroom at 3 o'clock in the morning, and you want to invite the Wajd, you want to invite those intense sensations. They disagreed. Some of them said it is okay, and some of them said it is not okay, because it's still fake. It's not the real, it's not the genuine thing. But those who said it is okay, the condition here is that the means to it are proper means. And the means would be proper. Dhikr, Quran, Salah, these are proper means. So you continue to repeat dhikr to bring it about. But isn't it superior that you repeat the dhikr to come closer to Allah, regardless of the sensation that you will get, regardless of the feedback that you will get? Yes, it is superior. That you're not waiting for a feedback. You want to get closer to Allah, and you're not waiting for a feedback. But if someone wanted to get to that sensation, and they're making dhikr, they woke up 3 hours before Fajr, and they continue to repeat dhikr to get some sensation, some feeling of comfort, some feeling of relaxation. Would it be condemnable? It may not be condemnable in this case, because this is proper. This is not pretentious. Means are proper. The motive is not pretentious. Then it may not be condemnable in that case. But if the means are improper, if it is you're spinning rapidly or dancing or whirling or doing something, did we hear of the Sahaba radhiyallahu alayhim or the Tabi'een or Tabi'at Tabi'een do any of that stuff to bring about that state? No. The tranquility, calm, dignity, grace are hallmarks, characteristics of our worship. Didn't Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say to us, وَذَرُ الَّذِينَ اتَّخَذُوا دِينَهُمْ لَعِبًا وَلَهْوًا وَغَرَّتْهُمُ الْحَيَاةُ الدُّنْيَا in Surah al-An'am, and leave those who took or turned their religion into something for play and amusement, لَعِبًا وَلَهْوًا, for play, amusement, and diversion. Didn't Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala condemn the prayer of the disbelievers, when he said in Surah al-Anfal, وَمَا كَانَ صَلَاتُهُمْ عِنْدَ الْبَيْتِ إِلَّا مُكَاءً وَتَصْدِيًّا فَذُوقُوا الْعَذَابَ بِمَا كُنْتُمْ تَكْفُرُونَ. and their prayer by the house was nothing more than whistling and hand clapping, play, amusement. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said this about other groups of religious people as well. So, didn't Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say to us in Surah Al-A'raf, "Ud'u rabbakum tadarru'an wa khufya, innahu la yuhibbul mu'tadin." Invoke your Lord with humility, humble supplication. Tadarru' is humble supplication, supplication with humility. Wa khufya, and covertly, privately. Innahu la yuhibbul mu'tadin. He loves not the transgressors. Then Allah say also in Surah Al-A'raf, وَاذْكُرْ رَبَّكَ فِي نَفْسِكَ تَضَرُّعًا وَخِيفَةً وَدُونَ الْجَهْرِ مِنَ الْقَوْلِ بِالْغُدُوِّ وَالْآصَالِ وَلَا تَكُنْ مِنَ الْغَافِلِينَ وَاذْكُرْ رَبَّكَ فِي نَفْسِكَ. Remember your Lord within yourself, تَضَرُّعًا, with humility, وَخِيفَةً, and out of fear or fright, in fear or fright, وَدُونَ الْجَهْرِ مِنَ الْقَوْلِ, without being loud, in your speech or your invocation. بِالْغُدُوِّ وَالْآصَالِ, in the mornings and before sunset. وَلَا تَكُنْ مِنَ الْغَافِلِينَ, and don't be among those who are heedless. And don't be among those who are heedless. Didn't the Prophet ﷺ tell us, when you come to the prayer, إذا أتيتم الصلاة فأتوها وعليكم السكينة والوقار, or إذا أقيمت الصلاة فلا تأتوها وأنتم تسعون أو تسعون وأتوها وعليكم السكينة والوقار. If you come to the prayer or you hear the iqamah, don't come to it rushing, and come to it with tranquility and waqar, which is a combination of dignity and grace, with dignity and grace. So sakina, waqar, hallmarks of our worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When you watch those videos about the people who, they do the clapping or the musical instruments, and they start to spin and they start to do things, do you really feel that they're emulating the Sahaba? Do you really envision Abu Bakr and Umar doing this? And then they drop on the ground and someone comes and hits them and they wake up and they come back. Do you think that this scene, that you would have seen something of this nature among the Sahaba of the Prophet ﷺ? No, you don't. It is, and if there is, then they would have been reported, but nothing of this nature was ever reported. But then, why are we not recognizing that people are not all the same? Why are we not recognizing that some people want relaxation? Why are we driving the people away because we are always talking to them about strict rules, and not recognizing that people are stressed out and that people want some relaxation or some sensation that helps them with their stress? So what is wrong with tawajud? To try to try to procure that sensation, procure some sensation of comfort. Otherwise, people are going to look for yoga, for instance, or some other technique to find that relaxation. You don't have to. The idea here is we're not even judging those people, because we don't judging those people in the sense of a final judgment. We're judging the practice. But in a sense of a final judgment of the people, we're not making final judgment of the people. And that is extremely important. Because when you watch a video like this, and then you come out and not only judge those people, but say, Sufis are just this or that, or that blanket statement includes in that blanket statement everybody who identified, and certainly, true Sufis do not identify themselves as Sufis, because it is لا تزكوا أنفسكم. Don't praise yourselves. But people who would consider themselves to be following the path of someone like al-Junayd al-Ma'ruf al-Karhi, Abdul Qadir al-Jilani, or somebody. And they're trying to do it right, and they're trying to do it consistently, and they're trying to be compliant with the Sharia. But they are trying to pay attention to the interior and trying to pay attention to the purification of the self or the purification of the soul and so on. Then you would have basically condemned all those people. Is that fair? Is that conducive to unity? Is that conducive to any goodness? Is that insaf? Absolutely not. Insaf is to say some people, when particularly a large group like this, to say, فَمِنْهُمْ سَابِقٌ بِالْخَيْرَاتِ وَمِنْهُمْ مُقْتَصِدٌ وَمِنْهُمْ ظَالِمٌ لِنَفْسِهِ. Some of them are vanguard, as Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah said about the Sufi and the Tasawwuf. Some of them are of the vanguard among the Muslims, and they will not be shortchanged by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Some of them are, they mixed good and bad deeds. Some of them have transgressed themselves. They're different types. But going back to the issue of, well, if someone wants to get, to have some of these sensations, you try to prescribe for them, you tell them, you could do it if without the intense movements. Because the intense movements, at the end of the day, it's not about the body, it's not about your physical entity, it's about your soul. So you want to get the real thing, or you just want to get dizzy, or you want to sort of affect your mental state by intense physical movements. No, you want to get the real thing, the real spiritual import. So sit down, wake up before Fajr, sit in your room, and say La ilaha illallah repeatedly. La ilaha illallah, la ilaha illallah, la ilaha illallah. And you could say it a little bit out loud to get that, because part of it, the relaxation that comes from yoga and comes from and sports as well. You could advise people to practice sports. Part of the relaxation that comes with this is basically to regulate your breathing and to have deep breaths and regulate your breathing. So the word Allah itself allows you, enables you to do this, because when you say Allah, what is happening with your tongue and your palate? Your tongue meets your palate, right? Allah, Allah, Allah. Say it, Allah. What happened to your tongue? Touch your palate, the roof of your mouth. Okay. So, and then what happened? The air was released. Okay. So if you say La ilaha illallah, it will have this also, but it is a complete formula that includes negation and affirmation. Therefore, it keeps the balance between negation and affirmation. So La ilaha illallah, there is no deity other than Allah. In the negation part, you're saying that all of the deities that others worship, we negate them. We affirm Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If you repeat Allah alone, then then that could result in the absorption into the focus of your dhikr, and that is the fana. And we have said before several times that baqa, subsisting with Allah, by Allah, for Allah, is superior. So you want to keep the formula that the Prophet ﷺ taught us. You want to keep the dhikr that the Prophet ﷺ said to us is the best thing that I and the Prophets before me have ever said. La ilaha illallah. So you say, La ilaha illallah, La ilaha illallah, La ilaha illallah, La ilaha illallah. And if you say it repeatedly, and if you say it out loud, you will combine both. You will combine both the relaxation that comes with regulating your breathing and the spiritual imports that come with the dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, particularly if you have focus. If you have focus. But if you don't have focus, repeat it. Ibn Ata rahimahullah, in his 47th aphorism, he said, لا تترك الذكر لعدم حضورك مع الله. Ibn Ata al-Secondary rahimahullah said, لا تترك الذكر لعدم حضورك مع الله. فإن نسيانك نسيانك عن وجود ذكره شر من نسيانك في وجود ذكره. So don't abandon dhikr because you don't feel your presence with Allah. Because your forgetfulness of His remembrance is worse than your forgetfulness in His remembrance. Your forgetfulness of His remembrance is worse than your forgetfulness in His remembrance. عسى الله أن ينفعك من ذكر مع غفلة إلى ذكر مع يقظة، ومن ذكر مع يقظة إلى ذكر مع حضور، ومن ذكر مع حضور إلى ذكر مع غيبة عما سوى المذكور. So maybe Allah will elevate you from a dhikr with heedlessness or forgetfulness to dhikr with alertness, and from dhikr with alertness to dhikr with presence in, or feeling your presence with the divine, and from dhikr with presence to dhikr with absence, that is your absence from other than the divine. But anyway, the beginning of this is important. Don't give up on dhikr because you don't feel your presence with Allah. وَالَّذِينَ جَاهَدُوا فِينَا لَنَهْدِيَنَّهُمْ سُبُلَنَا. Those who strive for our cause, we shall guide them to our paths. Some of the Salaf said, I struggled with the night prayers for 20 years and then I enjoyed it for 20 years. 20 years he is struggling. 20 years he's not getting that sweetness that everybody wants. 20 years. 20 years he's not getting the spiritual imports that everybody wants. He's struggling. He's trying to wake up for Salat Qiyamul Layl. He's trying to, he's doing it, the perfect way. And then he got to enjoy it for 20 years. But what if you die before you get to enjoy it? But then you will enjoy the fruits of your night prayers. Will Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala shortchange you for the night prayers? Will Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, undercompensate you for your night prayers? Absolutely not. Then you get to enjoy them in the hereafter if you die before that. Is it still a good deal? Perfect. So the idea here is consistency. And then those people that, that they would still want something more, they can do this in group. That is not the preferred way in my understanding, but that's a controversial issue. It's a fiqhi controversy. Hanbalis and Shafa'is were particularly warmer to group dhikr than Malikis and Hanafis. Surprisingly, the Hanafis and Malikis were more averse to group dhikr than Shafa'is and Hanbalis. But the preferred way is, وَاذْكُرْ رَبَّكَ فِي نَفْسِكَ, and remember your Lord within yourself, تَضَرُّعًا وَخِيفًا, with humility and supplication and in fright. But then at the end of the day, don't make up an act of worship. Because to use musical instruments or rapid spinning or all of that stuff, that's now a clear departure. That is now not about fiqh controversy anymore. That is a clear departure from the way of the Prophet ﷺ and his companions. Okay, so we spent a lot of time on just identifying what wajd is, because it does require some sort of detailed explanation. Then we'll go back to what the Shaykh said here. Shaykh said, الوجد لهب يتأجج من شهود عارض مقلق وهو على 3 درجات. Wajd is a flame that is ignited upon experiencing an unsettling encounter. It is of 3 levels. So Wajd is a flame that is ignited upon experiencing an unsettling encounter. It is of 3 levels. It's a flame that is encountered, that is ignited upon experiencing an unsettling encounter. You're not settled yet. Because Wajd is, in the Shaykh's sort of book, Wajd is not wujud. Wujud is translated as being or actualization of that presence, and your being in the divine presence. That actualization of being in the divine presence is wujud, being. But Wajd is short of that. Wajd is an experience. That experience moves you. You hear an ayah, you hear a hadith, you make dhikr, you recite the Quran until you have an experience. It moves you. It moves you to seek, your goal, which is that being within the divine presence. That being in that wujud in the divine presence. So you're unsettled until you get to that phase of wujud in the Shaykh's own book. And that's, according to, his own classification. And then the Shaykh said, وهو على 3 درجات, it is of 3 levels. الدرجة الأولى وجد عارض يستفيق له شاهد السمع أو شاهد البصر أو شاهد الفكر أبقى على صاحبه أثرا أو لم يبقي. The first level is a transient find that alerts the observant hearing, sight, and reflection, whether it leaves a lasting impact on the one who experienced it or not. This is a transient find. And Wajd is in general transient, but the impact is not transient. Wajd is in general a state that you go through, not a station that you're established in. But the impact of the Wajd is not transient, particularly if the Wajd is Wajd by the soul, not the devices of the soul. This first level is Wajd by the devices. Your sight, your hearing, your intellect, reflection by the intellect. So the first level is a transient find that alerts the observant hearing, sight, and reflection, whether it leaves a lasting impact on the one who experienced it or not. It will leave a lasting impact. If it is genuine Wajd, it will leave an impact. Certainly it will leave an impact, but this impact may be overcome by heedlessness afterwards, may be overcome by sin afterwards. So that is why the Shaykh said it may not leave an impact. That's why I put between parentheses lasting, because the Shaykh did not say that, but he may have meant it does not leave a lasting impact. And then he said, والدرجة الثانية وجد تستفيق له الروح بلمع نور أزلي أو سماع نداء أولي أو جذب حقيقي إن أبقى على صاحبه لباسه وإلا أبقى عليه نورا. So والدرجة الثانية وجد تستفيق له الروح. The second level is a find that awakens the soul. A find that awakens the soul. Now, do you see the difference between the second level and the first? The first level is basically Wajd by the intellect, by the hearing, by the sight, the devices of the soul. The devices of the soul. The devices of the soul look at what? The signposts that point to what? The ultimate goal. Allah, the destination. So these signposts are engaged by the sight, the hearing, the intellect. But the soul, he said, the second level is a find that awakens the soul. The soul basically goes beyond the signposts to the one they point to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the second level is a find that awakens the soul by the glow of the light of pre-eternity. The glow of the light of pre-eternity. When they basically throw the blanket over the world, over the world that we live in, the life of this world. Throw the blanket meaning go back in time, go back in time, go back in time. Before this, before this, before this, before this, you get to the point where كان الله ولم يكن شيء ولم يكن معه شيء. So there Allah was and nothing else was with him. Nothing else was with him. That is لمع نور أزلي, the glow of the light of pre-eternity. Because this light will disrupt and all the darknesses. All the existences around you are layers of darknesses that keep you from the glow of this light, the origin, where we all came from, distract you, confuse you. He said, بِلَمْعِ نُورٍ أَزَلِي أَوْ سَمَاعِ نِدَاءٍ أَوَّلِي, the glow of the light of pre-eternity, or hearing the first call, or a divine attraction. سَمَاعِ نِدَاءٍ أَوَّلِي أَوْ جَذْبٍ حَقِيقِي. What's the first call? سورة الأعراف وإذا أخذ ربك من بني آدم من ظهورهم ذريتهم وأشهدهم على أنفسهم ألست بربكم قالوا بلى شهدنا أن تقولوا يوم القيامة إنا كنا عن هذا غافلين تقولوا إنما أشرك آباؤنا من قبل كنا ذرية من بعدهم أفتهلكنا بما فعل المبطلون. So وإذا أخذ ربك من بني آدم من ذريتهم وإذا أخذ ربك من بني آدم من ظهورهم ذريتهم وأشهدهم على أنفسهم. And remember when your Lord took from the loins of Adam his offspring, and then he made them testify of themselves, saying, am I not your Lord? And they said, yes, you are. قالوا بلى شهدنا, we testify, we bear witness, we bear witness. أن تقولوا يوم القيامة إنا كنا عن هذا غافلين. Lest you say on the day of judgment, we were heedless about this. We did not hear of this. We did not know of this. So here you are bearing witness. We said that the remains of this, because you don't remember it, right? You say, well, but I don't remember it. The remains of this is called fitra, your genuine inclination, your natural inclination. Natural inclination is what remained of the first, pledge. When you pledge to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He's your Lord, before you came into this material body, before your soul came into the matter of the body, because this is the difference between belief and disbelief. Well, you're not the body. There is something to you other than the body. Personal identity is a big thing that people talk about all the time. Spirit, soul. Some people refer to this as mind, consciousness. David Hume said you're just a group of memories, nothing else, because he just couldn't get couldn't empirically verify that you have a soul. But who are you? You just can't be this body. What if you lost your arm? Are you the same person? What if you lost both arms? Are you the same person? You are. You are. This is not, part of the mahiyya. This is not part of your essence. You're the same person. Lost both legs and both arms. Are you the same person? What if they took out your kidneys, transplanted kidneys into you? And liver, guts, heart and lungs. They do this now. They're even talking about brain transplantation. There is philosophical literature already about, what if they replaced all the parts? Are you? Yes, you are. But what is you then? It can't be that body. That body is it. It's not I. So the soul existed before the body, descended into your body. You don't remember all of this because it is meant for you not to remember. Otherwise there would be no test. But that soul has descended into the body. Before that, when you were a soul, a spirit, outside of the body. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made you testify, bear witness that He is your only Lord. That is النداء الأولي أو سماع نداء أولي, hearing the first call. أو جذب حقيقي, or a divine attraction. Jazb is a divine attraction. Majzoob does not have to be insane. There is that is when these strands of or strains of Sufism corrupted, the whole discipline, the whole path, by saying that the Majdoob, that the people, all the crazy people in town are Majdoobs there, that they were pulled by Allah, it's divine attraction, and then you are a greater believer, have a greater connection, you have a spiritual state that is greater than anyone else. If you look, dirty, or you look like crazy, or this. But what about the first community? What about Abu Bakr and Umar? What about the Prophet? What about Abu Darda? What about Salman? Are these people not spiritual? So the jazb, the attraction here is when Allah pulls you. When Allah pulls you from sin to ta'ah, from ma'siyah to ta'ah, when Allah pulls you from a station to a higher station, it's a divine attraction. And then the Shaykh said, إِنْ أَبْقَى عَلَى صَاحِبِهِ لِبَاسَهُ, this would leave on the one who experienced it a permanent garb or a guiding light. A permanent garb, that is to establish you in one of the lofty stations. This wajd will establish you in a station, a lofty station, and gets you sort of confirmed in a lofty station. You could have an intense sensation, an intense spiritual sensation. You could receive intense spiritual imports that will allow you to stay in and be confirmed in the station of tawakkul, for instance, reliance. After these intense sensations, after this intense experience, you have become so reliant on Allah, you don't have an anxiety anymore, you're so relaxed, and so a permanent garb. It basically gave you a permanent garb, in this case, established you in one of the lofty stations. Then the Shaykh said, وَالدَّرَجَةُ الثَّالِثَةُ وَجْدٌ يَخْطِفُ الْعَبْدَ مِنْ يَدِ الْكَوْنَيْنِ وَيُمَحِّضُ مَعْنَاهُ مِنْ دَرَنِ الْحَظِّ ويسلبه من رق الماء والطين إن سلبه أنساه اسمه وإن لم يسلبه أعاره رسمه. الدرجة الثالثة وجد يخطف العبد من يد الكونين. The third level is a find, is procurement, is wajd, is ecstasy that snatches the servant from the grasp of the two worlds. Snatches the servant from the grasp of the two worlds. What two worlds? This life and the hereafter. But aren't we all about the hereafter? Don't we all want to get to the hereafter? He wants to say that your focus on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will distract you even from the hereafter. But we're saying that this does not mean that you're not hopeful in Jannah, that you don't have hope in Jannah. It means that what matters to you the most is the pleasure of Allah. And even in Jannah, the ultimate pleasure in Jannah is the pleasure of Allah, and is the beholding Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَيُمَحِّضُ مَعْنَاهُ مِنْ دَرَكِ الْحَظِّ. So it will take him from the two worlds and purify him from the filth of self-interest. Purify him from the self. Daran, that's disease. The disease, filth. Al-Haz. Haz means what? Self-interest. Self-interests, can we not have self-interests completely? It may not be possible that we have no self. Even salvation is a self-interest. Even entry in paradise is self-interest. Whenever we make dua, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asked us to make dua, that is self-interest. Self-interest. But the self-interest that is condemnable, the self-interest that is dangerous, is the self-interest that will make you distracted from the pleasure of Allah, that will make you pursue it at the expense of Allah's pleasure. that will make you pursue it through transgression, that will make you competitive to the point of transgression, that you want to trip me to get ahead of me, that you don't have goodwill, you have sibling rivalry, you want to be better, in front of your parents than the rest of your siblings. So you want to make sure that they look worse than you. It's not like you try to prop them up, you try to elevate them, you try to say good things about them. So basically, if you want to get rid of the bad self-interest, there are certain things that you need to do. Do things in private more than in public. Maybe you're not going to be able to, maybe it is not advisable anyway to cut down on what you do in public. But make your private work outsize your public work. And then you want to overcome self-interest. It is hard for you to put yourself down. Put your competitors up. That's your siblings. They compete. That's the rivalry for your parents' pleasure. That is your co-workers. That's your classmates. That is the other da'iyah or ustaz or imam or this or that who's competing with you. You feel that. You feel that it is a bad feeling. How do you get rid of it? Put yourself down may be hard for most people, although sometimes it's needed. But the easier thing to do is put your brother up, put your sister up, elevate them, praise them in front of people so that you could overcome that dangerous, condemnable self-interest. But not self-interest per se, because even our pursuit of salvation is a self-interest. Every time we invoke Allah, there is some self-interest. And the Prophet and the Sahaba told us to ask Allah for everything and to invoke Allah for everything. And then he said, وَيَسْلُبُهُ مِنْ رِقِّ الْمَاءِ وَالطِّينِ, and release him from the captivity of the water and soil. That's the matter in which the spirit descended, in which your soul descended. The captivity of the matter. The matter, and there, we talked about this before. We'll talk about this later, inshallah. But this is what the Shaykh meant. إن سلبه أنساه اسمه وإن لم يسلبه أعاره رسمه. This would either make him forget his own name because he forgot himself. Because of his absorption, his focus on his Lord, his beloved, made him forget about himself. And if you forget about yourself, you forget your name. He will forget his name or leave him a loaned form. Leave him a loaned form. That is a little bit lower than what the Shaykh wants you to get to, which is self-annihilation or fana, which is what we said many times before, is not the ultimate station. The ultimate station is to subsist by Allah, for Allah, with Allah, like the first community, like members of the first community, our role models, the ideal community, that of the Prophet ﷺ and his companions. They were very grounded in the reality, but the reality never distracted them from seeking the pleasure of their Lord. قولوا قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك اشهد ان لا اله الا انت استغفرك واتوب اليك. We will take 7 minutes and come back inshallah.